The night shift at New Appalachian Mining Colony was supposed to be quiet. Jack Reeves wiped the grease from his hands and looked at the clock on his workshop wall. Nearly midnight. He had spent the last 6 hours rebuilding the hydraulic system on excavator number 7, and his back ached from bending over the machinery. He was packing up his tools when he heard it. A sound like thunder, but wrong somehow. Thunder didn't scream as it fell. Thunder didn't end with a tremendous crash that shook the ground beneath his feet and rattled every tool on his workbench. Jack ran outside. The other mechanics on duty were already pointing toward the eastern hills, where a plume of smoke rose into the dark sky. The settlement's alarm system stayed silent, which meant whatever had crashed wasn't setting off the defense sensors. Not a missile, then. Not an attack. Probably space junk, someone muttered behind him. But Jack's gut told him otherwise. He had been fixing things his entire life, and he had learned to trust his instincts about when something was truly wrong. He grabbed his portable toolkit, jumped into his utility rover, and drove toward the crash site before anyone could stop him. The colony regulations were clear about investigating unknown phenomena. Wait for the security team. File a report. Follow protocol. Jack had never been good at following protocol when something needed immediate attention. The rover bounced over the rough terrain for 20 minutes before he saw it. A trench had been carved into the rocky ground, ending in a small crater surrounded by scattered debris. But this wasn't satellite wreckage or asteroid fragments. The pieces glowed with a soft blue light, and they looked almost organic, like broken pieces of a giant seashell. Jack approached slowly, his hand on the emergency beacon clipped to his belt. Then he heard it, a sound that made his heart clench. It was a sound of pain, of fear, of something small and helpless crying for help. He found the creature at the center of the crater. It was like nothing Jack had ever seen, not in any database or training manual. The size of a large dog, maybe 70 pounds, with a long serpentine body covered in scales that shimmered between silver and deep blue, for legs ending in delicate claws, a tail that twitched weakly, a narrow head with large eyes that reflected his flashlight beam like liquid gold, and wings, beautiful, membranous wings that spread from its back like those of a bat, but translucent and glowing with bioluminescent patterns. One wing was folded neatly against its body. The other was twisted at an unnatural angle, the delicate bone structure clearly broken, the membrane torn in 3 places. The creature saw him and tried to scramble backward, clicking and chirping in distress. It couldn't run. The injured wing dragged uselessly behind it, and one of its back legs wasn't supporting weight properly either. "Easy," Jack said softly, the same tone he used with scared animals back on Earth. "Easy there, little one. I'm not going to hurt you." He sat down slowly, making himself smaller, less threatening. He set his toolkit beside him and opened it carefully, letting the creature see every movement. The clicking sound continued, but they grew quieter. The golden eyes watched him with obvious intelligence. Jack had spent 30 years fixing things. Engines, computers, life support systems, farming equipment. He had rebuilt spacecraft wings damaged by micrometeorite strikes. He had spliced torn pressure suits. He had even performed emergency surgery on a colonist's broken arm once, using the same principles he used for repairing machinery. Structure was structure. Support was support. Everything broken could be fixed if you understood how the pieces fit together. He studied the wing carefully without touching it yet. The bone structure reminded him of the support struts in shuttle wings, lightweight but strong, designed for flexibility. The membrane was similar to the synthetic materials they use for emergency habitat repairs, thin but durable when intact. "I can fix this," he told the creature, not expecting it to understand but needing to say it anyway. "It's going to hurt a bit, but I can make it better. You have to trust me." The creature tilted its head, and those intelligent eyes seemed to consider him. Then, slowly, it stopped trying to pull away. It settled onto the ground, still trembling but no longer fighting. Jack took that as permission. He pulled out his medical scanner, designed for humans but useful enough to show him the extent of the damage. 3 fractures in the wing bone, torn membrane, dislocated shoulder joint where the wing connected to body. He had carbon fiber splinting rods, biocompatible adhesive, synthetic membrane patches, and pain medication in his field kit. Everything he needed to repair a damaged ship component. Everything he needed, he hoped, to repair a dragon. 3 days had passed since Jack found the creature. He had moved it to an abandoned mining shaft near his workshop, a place where the colony security cameras didn't reach. Every few hours, he brought food and water, checking the splints and bandages on the injured wing. The creature, which Jack had started calling Little Blue in his mind, was healing faster than he expected. It ate the processed protein bars he brought, drank water from a metal bowl, and even started making softer chirping sounds when it saw him approach. The wing was still splinted, but the swelling had gone down. Jack estimated another week before he could remove the supports and see if the creature could fly again. On the morning of the 4th day, everything changed. Jack was in his workshop, grinding down a piece of metal when the lights flickered. Then they went out completely. Emergency power kicked in after a few seconds, bathing everything in red light. The colony's alarm system began blaring, a sound that meant only one thing: unidentified object approaching. He ran outside with dozens of other colonists. People were pointing at the sky, their faces pale with fear. Jack looked up and felt his breath catch in his throat. Something was descending through the clouds. Something massive. At first, he thought it was a ship, maybe a military vessel or a cargo hauler. But as it came closer, he realized it was alive. The creature was enormous beyond comprehension. Its body was as long as 3 cargo ships placed end to end. Wings stretched across the sky, each one wider than the colony's main landing pad. Scales covered its body like plates of armor, gleaming like polished metal in the morning sun. A long neck curved gracefully, ending in a head with eyes that burned like molten gold. A dragon, an actual dragon, like something from ancient Earth legends, but real and impossibly large and descending toward the colony with slow, deliberate wing beats. The colony's defense turrets activated automatically, tracking the creature's movement. Jack heard the security chief shouting orders over the radio, telling everyone to evacuate to the shelters. People were running, screaming, grabbing children and pets. But Jack stood still, watching the dragon land in the open area outside the colony's main gate. The ground shook when its feet touched down. Dust rose in clouds around it. The dragon folded its wings and lowered its massive head, studying the colony with those intelligent, burning eyes. Then it spoke, not in words exactly, but in a deep, resonating sound that seemed to vibrate through Jack's bones. The colony's translation computers picked up the sound, analyzing it, converting it into something human ears could understand. A single sentence appeared on every screen and speaker in the settlement. "Where's my child?" Jack's heart nearly stopped. My child, the creature in the mining shaft. Little Blue, this dragon's baby. The security chief was shouting for everyone to stay back, demanding that someone establish communication protocols, insisting they needed to follow first contact procedures. But Jack knew they didn't have time for procedures. The mother dragon was searching for her child. If she thought humans had hurt it, if she believed they were holding it prisoner, she might attack. And nothing in the colony's arsenal could stop something that size. Jack pushed through the crowd gathered behind the safety barriers. Guards tried to stop him, but he shrugged them off. He walked out into the open area, alone, approaching the massive dragon with his hands raised to show he was unarmed. "I know where your child is," he called out, hoping the translation computers would convert his words into something she could understand. "I found it injured. I've been helping it. It's safe." The dragon's head swung toward him, and Jack found himself staring into eyes as large as his entire body. He saw intelligence there, ancient and powerful, but also something else. Fear, desperation, the same expression he had seen in the eyes of every worried parent he had ever met. "Show me," the translation system echoed back. Jack nodded and turned toward the mining shaft. Behind him, he heard the colony administrator shouting, demanding he stop, insisting this needed proper authorization. Jack ignored them all. He walked steadily toward the abandoned shaft, and the massive dragon followed, each of her footsteps shaking the ground like a small earthquake. When they reached the shaft entrance, Jack climbed down the ladder. The mother dragon was too large to follow, but she positioned her head at the opening, peering down into the darkness. Little Blue was awake, clicking nervously in the shadows. Jack approached slowly and gestured toward the entrance. "Your mother's here," he said softly. "She found you." The reunion happened in a way that made Jack's chest feel tight. The mother dragon, too large to enter the mining shaft, made a low humming sound that resonated through the rock walls. Little Blue responded immediately, chirping excitedly and hobbling toward the entrance despite the splinted wing. Jack helped the small dragon climb up the ladder, supporting its weight as they ascended. When they reached the surface, Little Blue launched itself toward its mother with a happy cry. The massive dragon lowered her head and gently nuzzled her child, examining every inch of its body with careful attention. Jack stood back, giving them space. He watched as the mother dragon's enormous eyes focused on the splints and bandages wrapped around her child's wing. She made a questioning sound, and her gaze shifted to Jack. For a moment, he thought she might be angry. Maybe she believed humans had caused the injury. Maybe she thought the repairs were inadequate. His heart pounded as those golden eyes studied him with an intensity that made him feel transparent. Then something unexpected happened. The mother dragon bowed her head slightly, a gesture that seemed almost like respect. Over the next hour, communication was established. The dragon mother had technology built into her body, biological systems that could interface with human computers. Through a combination of mathematical language and complex sound patterns, a conversation began. Her name, as closely as human mouths could pronounce it, was Veristrix. Her child was Chyrix. Veristrix explained that her species had traveled the stars for millions of years, long before humans had even discovered fire. They were ancient, powerful, and rare. Chyrix had been on a training flight, learning to navigate between solar systems, when a malfunction in his biological navigation system had caused him to crash. "You saved my child's life," the translation system echoed Veristrix's words. "This creates a debt that must be honored." Jack shook his head quickly. "I didn't do it for payment. The kid was hurt. I just helped. That is why the debt is meaningful." Veristrix responded. "You acted with skill and compassion, expecting nothing. In my culture, such actions must be recognized." By now, the colony's leadership had arrived. The administrator, a nervous man named Chun, stepped forward with a team of diplomats and corporate representatives. They tried to take control of the situation, talking about formal treaties and trade agreements and mutual cooperation between species. Veristrix ignored them completely. Her attention remained fixed on Jack. "I will observe you for one lunar cycle," she announced. "Then I will repay the debt in the manner of my people. The payment must match not only the action, but the spirit of the one who performed it." Jack protested again. "Really, you don't need to do anything. Just make sure Chyrix's wing heals properly. That's all I care about." But Veristrix was firm. "The debt will be honored. This is our way." For the next 30 days, Veristrix remained near the colony. Her presence changed everything. Scientists studied her ship, which wasn't really a ship at all, but living structure grown from biological materials. Diplomats tried endlessly to negotiate meetings with her. Corporate executives schemed about potential profits from dragon technology. But Veristrix paid attention only to Jack. She watched him work in his repair shop, fixing mining equipment and colonist vehicles. She observed him teaching a young apprentice named Sarah how to calibrate fuel injectors, patiently explaining the same concept 5 different ways, until the girl understood. She saw him repair a single mother's broken transport for free, because he knew she couldn't afford parts. Jack continued his daily visits to check on Chyrix. The young dragon followed him everywhere now, becoming a constant presence in his workshop. Children who'd been afraid at first started playing games with Chyrix. The dragon learned to be gentle, careful not to knock things over with its tail or accidentally scratch anyone with its claws. One afternoon, representatives from a competing corporation arrived at Jack's workshop. They offered him a fortune, a position on a luxury space station, and a percentage of future profits if he would convince Veristrix to share dragon technology with them exclusively. Jack looked at them for a long moment. Then he picked up a wrench and pointed it toward the door. "Get out of my shop." "You're making a mistake," one of them said. "Do you have any idea how much money we're offering?" "I know exactly what you're offering," Jack replied. And I know exactly what you want to sell. Now leave before I throw you out." The lunar cycle continued, and Jack's life settled into a new routine. Every morning, he checked on Kyrix's wing, making small adjustments to the healing splints. The young dragon's progress was remarkable. The bones were knitting together faster than any human injury would heal, and the torn membrane was regenerating with barely a scar. Veristrix watched everything. She perched on the hills overlooking the colony, her massive form visible from anywhere in the settlement. At night, her scales glowed faintly, like a second moon in the sky. During the day, she observed Jack's every action with patient attention. Jack found her constant presence unsettling at first, but he gradually got used to it. He went about his work the same way he always had, because he didn't know any other way to be. One morning, a water filtration unit in the colony's east sector broke down. It was old equipment, past its expected lifespan, and the replacement parts wouldn't arrive for 3 weeks. Without it, 20 families would be without clean water. Jack spent 16 hours straight diagnosing the problem and fabricating new parts from scrap metal in his workshop. He didn't charge anyone for the work. When Administrator Chen offered to pay him from the colony's emergency fund, Jack refused. "Those families need that money more than I do," he said simply. "Besides, fixing things is what I do." From her perch on the hill, Veristrix rumbled with what might have been approval. Another day, a young boy named Marcus brought his broken toy to Jack's workshop. It was a small mechanical rover, the kind children played with, and its drive system had burned out. The boy's eyes were red from crying. The toy had been a gift from his father, who had died in a mining accident 2 years earlier. Jack had a dozen real jobs waiting, equipment that actually mattered to the colony's operations. But he saw the boy's face and remembered being young and heartbroken over small losses that felt enormous. He spent 3 hours rebuilding the toy rover's motor system, making it even better than it had been originally. When he handed it back to Marcus, the boy's smile was worth more than any payment. Veristrix, watching from above, made a deep humming sound that resonated through the ground. The corporate executives didn't give up. They came back repeatedly, offering larger sums of money, better positions, more elaborate benefits. They sent negotiators, lawyers, and even a woman who claimed to be from Earth's central government. All of them wanted Jack to be their intermediary with the dragons, to secure exclusive trade deals or technology transfers or military alliances. Jack turned them all away. Some he dismissed politely. Others he told bluntly to leave him alone. When one particularly persistent businessman tried to bribe him with enough money to buy his own planet, Jack laughed in his face. "You don't get it," Jack said. "I didn't help Kyrix to get rich. I helped because something was broken and I could fix it. That's it. That's the whole story." Sarah, his apprentice, was struggling with a particularly complex repair on a harvester's control system. She had been working on it for days, growing more frustrated with each failure. Jack could have fixed it in an hour, but instead, he sat beside her and guided her through the diagnostic process step by step. "You're rushing," he told her gently. "Take your time. Listen to what the machine is telling you. Every broken thing makes a specific sound. You just need to learn its language." It took Sarah another full day, but she finally solved the problem herself. Her face lit up with pride and accomplishment. Jack patted her shoulder and went back to his own work, satisfied that she had learned something more valuable than just how to repair one harvester. Veristrix descended from her hill that evening and approached Jack's workshop. She was so large that her head barely fit through the reinforced cargo entrance. Kyrix was with her, the young dragon's wing now free of splints and moving normally. "I have seen enough," Veristrix said through the translation system. "I understand what kind of person you are, Jack Reeves. You are a builder and a fixer. You help others not for profit, but because you see problems as challenges to solve. You cannot walk past something broken without wanting to make it whole again. You value skill and knowledge, but you use them in service of others." Jack shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "I just do what needs doing." "Yes," Veristrix agreed. "And that is precisely why you are worthy of the debt I owe you. Tomorrow, I will honor that debt in the way of my people." The entire colony gathered the next morning. Administrator Chun had declared it an official event, and even the miners who worked night shifts stayed awake to witness whatever was about to happen. Security teams stood ready, though nobody knew what they were supposed to be ready for. Scientists clutched their recording equipment. Corporate representatives whispered among themselves about potential opportunities. Jack stood in the center of the landing field, feeling awkward in clean clothes that Sarah had insisted he wear. Kyrix sat beside him, the young dragon's wing fully healed and moving with perfect grace. Over the past month, Jack had grown genuinely fond of the creature. Saying goodbye was going to be harder than he expected. Veristrix descended from the skies slowly, her massive wings creating gusts of wind that made everyone step back. She landed with surprising gentleness for something so enormous, and the ground barely trembled. Her scales caught the morning sunlight and reflected it in rainbow patterns. Behind her, something else descended, a container, perfectly cubic and made from the same organic material as her living ship. It was large, roughly the size of Jack's entire workshop, and it settled on the ground with a heavy thud. Jack Reeves, Veristrix's voice resonated through the translation system. You saved my child with skill and compassion. You asked for nothing in return. You refused wealth and power when others offered it. You are a true craftsman, one who fixes what is broken simply because it needs fixing. This is rare and precious. The container's walls became transparent, and Jack heard gasps from the crowd around him. Inside was gold, not coins or jewelry, but pure bars of refined gold stacked in neat rows. Thousands of them. The metal gleamed with a purity that Jack had never seen, catching and reflecting light in ways that seemed almost unnatural. This is a portion of my hoard, Veristrix explained, collected over millennia across 100 worlds. To my kind, it is beautiful but common. To your kind, it has great value. I give this to you freely. Jack stared at the gold, his mind struggling to comprehend the amount. It was enough wealth to buy a dozen colonies. Enough to never work another day in his life. Enough to change everything. I can't accept this, he said quietly. It's too much. The debt must be honored, Veristrix replied firmly. But the gold is only a symbol. The true gift is something else. She lowered her massive head and touched Jack's chest with one claw, so gently that he barely felt it. Where she touched, a pattern appeared on his skin, glowing faintly before fading to something barely visible. It looked like a stylized wing, traced in lines that shimmered when the light hit them correctly. This is the mark of friendship, Veristrix explained. Any dragon who sees it will know you are trusted. You are under our protection now. If you ever need help, call for us, and we will come. She raised her head and addressed the entire colony through the translation system. More than this, I have recorded this world and these people in our archives. Humanity has shown itself capable of compassion and skill. Should your species face extinction or great danger, my people will remember the debt owed to Jack Reeves. We will not forget. The weight of those words settled over the crowd. One man's simple act of kindness had potentially secured protection for all of humanity from an ancient and powerful species. Kyrix moved forward and nuzzled Jack's hand one last time. The young dragon made a soft chirping sound, and Jack knew it was goodbye. He scratched behind Kyrix's jaw, right where the dragon liked it, and felt his throat get tight. You take care of yourself, Jack said, and practice those wing exercises I showed you. Kyrix chirped again, then spread his wings wide. They were perfect now, strong and whole. The young dragon launched himself into the air with powerful strokes, circling once overhead before joining his mother. Together, they rose into the sky, growing smaller until they disappeared into the clouds. The crowd erupted in noise. People were shouting questions at Jack. Reporters were demanding interviews. Corporate executives were already calculating profits. Administrator Chin was trying to organize some kind of formal response. Jack ignored them all. He looked at the container of gold, then at the faint mark on his chest. Finally, he turned to Sarah, who was staring at him with wide eyes. Come on, he said. We got work to do. That harvester in Bay 3 still needs its hydraulics replaced. But the gold, Sarah stammered. You're rich. You're the richest person in the colony. Maybe the richest person in this whole sector of space. Jack shrugged and started walking back toward his workshop. Yeah, probably. I'll figure out what to do with it later. Maybe build a proper technical school so kids like you can learn trades without cobbling together broken equipment. But right now, that harvester won't fix itself. Sarah hurried after him, and behind them, the colony descended into organized chaos over the dragon's gift. But Jack was already thinking about hydraulic systems and pressure valves, about teaching and fixing and building. Some things, he thought, were more valuable than gold, even mountains of it.